What if the man who made the world laugh the hardest was quietly learning how to love the deepest? Not on screen, but at home, in silence.
I don't know anything different, but
Sure.
it was great. They're amazing parents, and we were there in the spotlight, of course, and everyone knows who they are, but they're very down-to-earth people.
At 79, Danny DeVito remains a towering name in Hollywood. He's unforgettable. From Frank Reynolds in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, to the Penguin in Batman Returns, to the wisecracking dispatcher Louis De Palma in Taxi, DeVito carved out a legendary career playing the outrageous, the absurd, and the unapologetically unfiltered. But according to his daughter Lucy DeVito, the most powerful role he ever played wasn't in front of a camera. Because while the world remembers the wild characters, Lucy remembers the quiet man who played them. Her story doesn't begin with premieres or fame. It begins in a modest kitchen, with Sunday morning pancakes flipped by a man still in his slippers. It begins at a dinner table turned into a miniature stage, where sock puppets came to life. It begins with a father who, even after 14-hour shoot days, would sit at the edge of her bed and tell stories, some hilarious, some thoughtful, but always present. Lucy didn't grow up with a celebrity. She grew up with a dad, a man who infused magic into the ordinary and comfort into the uncertain. And only now, as an adult, does she fully understand why he needed to. Because that laughter, that relentless, room-filling humor, it was never just performance, it was protection, a defense mechanism built from decades of hardship, chaos, and silent wounds. Danny DeVito didn't come from wealth or warmth. He was born to aging parents in Asbury Park, New Jersey. His mother, by her own admission, hadn't planned on another child. His father, charming during the day, became unpredictable after a drink. As Lucy puts it, there was love, but it came with conditions, with volatility, with fear. By his early teens, Danny could already see where his life was headed. Friends were falling into drugs, petty crime, and dead-end paths. So at 14, in a move that spoke volumes of his self-awareness, he asked to be sent away. To a Catholic boarding school. Not because he was misbehaving, but because he wanted to escape what was becoming inevitable. That choice didn't just give him structure, it gave him a chance to grow without chaos, a chance to study, reflect, and breathe. And he took it. That boarding school, Lucy says, was the first time her father began shaping his future with intention, not reaction. Years later, that same sense of purpose would define the way he built a family. When Danny became a father, he had no blueprint. He hadn't grown up in a house that talked about emotions. He hadn't been shown how to nurture or communicate or listen. So he did what few manage. He started from scratch. Lucy says he learned how to parent the same way he learned how to act, by trial, by error, and by heart. There were moments of over-preparation, like obsessing over how a Thanksgiving meal might go wrong. There were moments where he'd deflect tension with humor so quickly, you'd forget what the original issue even was. But through it all, there was effort. Constant, visible, loving effort. He created a home where feelings were acknowledged, not buried. Where laughter was healing, not distracting. Where bedtime stories weren't a duty, but a ritual. And where love, real, open, safe love, was spoken, not just assumed. When Lucy told him she wanted to act, he didn't roll out red carpets. He sat her down. He asked if she was ready for the rejection, the comparisons, the relentless grind. And then he gave her the green light, not as Danny DeVito the legend, but as her father who believed in her as an individual. Fame is temporary, he told her, but being real, that stays. Now, Lucy is 42, and as she reflects on her father's legacy, she doesn't see awards or movie posters. She sees a man who broke a cycle, a man who wasn't handed emotional tools but built them, a man who didn't just survive his past, he transformed it into a better future for the people he loved most. She sees the dad who hugged her tightly at the airport, the one who cried during family toast even if he pretended it was just allergies, the man who, without ever saying the words, taught her that strength isn't in hiding pain, it's in choosing not to pass it on. Danny DeVito didn't run from where he came from. He faced it, and he rewrote what home could mean. No audience applauded him for that role. No director yelled, "Cut." But in those unscripted moments, those in-between scenes of ordinary life, he gave his most honest performance. Because sometimes, the most heroic characters aren't the ones who save the day on screen. They're the ones who quietly decide to build a new kind of life and never let the past win.